I know it's the legislative break and spring vacation and Easter, and so we're probably a little light on numbers, but I'm really thrilled that we could continue to meet because there's always progress to report on. And also we have a few new members that we can introduce. And I know there's a number of people who are maybe watching online. So this is the Metro Green Line Extension Corridor Management Committee, Wednesday, April 5th, and we'll call the meeting to order. First, a couple of normal housekeeping items. These mics in front of you are live. They don't turn off and on, they're always on. So keep that in mind if you're whispering to each other. Also know that if you're watching online and you have questions, feel free to email any comments, questions, or thoughts directly to the project team. And that would be best to David Davies. That's david.davies@metrotransit.org. And if you do that through next Friday, that'll be posted on the website. And that website is greenlineext.org. So why don't we just go around the room and introduce ourselves. I know that Councilmember Tyrone Carter, who is a new member, is unable to be here. He had a conflict. But I kind of want to start on our right because we have a new Anjali Cameron, who's an alternate, but is new council. I won't say new much longer, but new to the council.
Yeah, there's a window of time where that still applies. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anjali Cameron. I am the newly appointed council member for District 5 that represents Edina, Hopkins, Bloomington, Richfield, and part of the Fort Snelling territories. I look forward to being an alternate to this committee, and I'm here because, as the chair mentioned, Councilmember Carter could not attend today.
John Pacheco, I represent District 6, which is St. Louis Park and Golden Valley and Robbinsdale.
Tim Browson, I'm on the St. Louis Park City Council.
Chris Latondras, Hennepin County Commissioner representing District 6.
Brad Wirsum, Mayor of Minnetonka.
Patrick Hanlon, Mayor of Hopkins.
John Tao with the Green Line Project Office.
Good morning, I'm Jim Alexander, Project Director for the Green Line Extension.
Jim Hovland, Edina Mayor.
Mike Barnes, MnDOT's Metro District Engineer.
Suzanne Sabatka, I'm here on behalf of Mayor Fry. I'm his senior infrastructure aide.
Dawn Hoffman with the Project Office, Recording Secretary.
And maybe I didn't say this, I'm Charlie Zelli, Chair of the CMC and Chairman of Council. Again, welcome everyone. We have a couple of business items and then we're going to get into the updates. First, the minutes from February 1st were sent out in advance. They're in your packet. And if there are any edits or comments or corrections, let us know now. Staff can capture that. And if there aren't any comments, I'd entertain a motion and a second to approve.
Move approval.
Second. Thank you. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Those minutes are adopted. Before we get into it, maybe I'll just mention a couple of quick things just to acknowledge that it's a busy session at the Capitol this year. There's two robust transit-related bills, both in the Senate and the House, that provides for some ongoing sustainable funding. But it is, as they say, early in the process, so we'll see how that works out. But I really appreciate everybody's advocacy. That could be helpful, not just for the operations, but some of the capital needs for this interconnected transit system. And as you all know, we're facing a structural deficit in a couple of years. So the idea of ongoing, not just one-time funding is really important. And then while we're at it, a little bit of one-time funding would be good too. So all the above. But that's a very active, and I know many people here are engaged in that process. So if you are, thank you. I also kind of acknowledge that the Office of the Legislative Auditor has come out with a second and a series of reports on this project. We can answer questions, but I think it's pretty much as it's been stated. We have been engaging with legislative auditor, and really hats off to the project team that is spending a lot of time answering questions and being fully disclosing of information that they're seeking. I think that we agree with many of their conclusions, but not all of their findings. I think that this committee in itself is a depository of a lot of good information. So when people are asking us about transparency, we can only need to go back to CMC minutes and or videos or attend meetings, because we really are pretty forthright about what the state of this project is, as much as its benefits and its challenges. So not to go into length, we are expect another audit report talking a little bit more substantively about some of the change order process, and we'll have comments about that probably before the end of May. That'll be coming out, and then another financial audit that follows that, likely toward late summer. I don't need to tell everybody in this group that this project is highly scrutinized and highly audited, even beyond the legislative auditor. We have our federal partners, which are here quite often, looking at every transaction, as well as a lot of the other work we do internally. So, any questions or thoughts on the OLA process? Feel free to reach out to me or staff, and we can always follow up. I think that the other issue that we won't go into at length today, although we can certainly address some of the issues and actions we're taking on transit safety. We talked a little bit about that last meeting. Transit safety and the experience of customers is really important, not just for ongoing operations, but as we develop these new lines, we have to kind of get it right as they open. We have some time, but we want to make sure that the experience is safe and successful. In that regard, we've invited Chief Morales, our new Chief of Police for Metro Transit Police, to come to a CMC meeting and kind of talk through his observations and plans. He is busy at a TSA tabletop exercise today. They're doing all day, but he is really hit the ground running, and he has it on the calendar for the next CMC meeting to come here and do a more thorough conversation and deep dive as to kind of where we see both the whole system, but also talk maybe a little bit about the light rail expansions and answer any questions other people have. So stay tuned. So as ministers do, that's the end of my announcements. We'll go directly into the updates and turn that over to you, Jim, project director, and I know you have a lot to go through.
All right, thank you, Chair. So we've got our usual PowerPoint here, and I'm going to go into it here. So I don't need to bore you with the details, but we do have a busy project here. A lot of details that we're working out. So kind of updated this slide a little bit to talk about the sequencing of things. Just to be clear with everyone, we have reestablished a schedule with the civil contractor, London Crossing, and also with the systems contractor, Aldrich Parsons joint venture. And those are two key pieces that really, kind of chart our course to get to the end game here. We are still in negotiations on the costs of those schedule changes. As you recall, that I think we talked about the civil contract that we did a settlement agreement back, St. Patty's Day last year, to enter into this new schedule with the civil contractor. But also we have authority from the ECCB and our Met Council to spend up to $210 million. And just kind of recall that the contractor had a cap of $288 million. So we're still in the negotiations of what that final number is going to be. And we hope to get that concluded yet this year, but understand this has been going on for over a year. It's very detailed conversations we're having with the contractor. We have our outside consultants are our legal firm, Venable, is leading this effort, and there's two expert consultants, Whipley, who's a construction cost accountant, and Troner, who is really dialed into claims. And both, all three of these entities helped out MnDOT with the St. Croix project, so they're familiar with this area. And so conversations are going well, but they just take a long time to get to the nitty-gritty to figure out what that final number is going to be. On the systems, we are just embarking on that process to determine what that cost is going to be. The system contractor has a cap of $64 million. Right now, we're looking to have a no-cost change order to get that schedule into the contract, and we'll be in the process of negotiating what that ultimate number is going to be. So that's kind of the current step here that we're at, and just kind of remind folks that we have a current estimated budget for this project at around $2.7 billion, and we're still seeking additional funds to the tune of about $270 million at this juncture, and we'll continue to have those conversations as we move through the year here. And kind of other things I'm looking up here. One thing I did want to mention on those on the rebaseline. So we had some stoppages primarily with our critical path item, the secant work last year and earlier this year. I'll talk about a little bit more about that as we get into the slides. That the rebaseline schedules do not incorporate those stoppages, but at this juncture, I think it's still safe to say that we're looking at a revenue service date in '27. We're not going to pinpoint the actual date. We typically don't do that anyway, and until we get closer to revenue service, but I think we're comfortable saying 2027 for revenue service. Still a long ways away. I know it's all for you. It's a long ways away. It's a long ways for me as well. It's been kind of a hard slog to get through all this, but we'll get there. With that, maybe I'll pause if there are any questions on that piece, because a lot of detail there. All right, hearing none. So going to continue updating all the good stuff that's going on in the project. We have continued to increase individuals working on the project. You can see overall state 69 of the 87 counties. That's pretty significant in terms of representation. And John will talk about DBE, but we're getting a lot of monies into DBE purses there, so it's really good. Over 200 million there. We're running over 20%. Which is over our goal of 15%. So construction highlights. I've got these maps. I'm not intending to go through these in detail. It's a lot of fine print. Normally, you don't like to put a lot of small font on there, but it's just trying to get these on. These will be. Everybody has a copy of this, and we will also have this on our website. And we have been in communication with staff on various cities in terms of what we're planning. But what this is intended to do, we have 5 maps that we've laid out how construction is going to take place, and really it's kind of focusing on where roadway impacts are going to be upcoming. And as we talked, we're really finishing up on the civil construction on the west end, and systems are starting to pick up, and really primarily getting into Minneapolis, where it's going to be more of the hard work as far as the civil, doing and the tunnel and those type of things. So I won't go into too much detail here. Maybe just kind of highlight some of the pieces out in Eden Prairie. We're looking to close down the ramp from Highway 212 to Prairie Center Drive. That's upcoming here shortly, and that's going to be about a 3-month suspension of that piece. No, that's very impactful to the businesses and the community down there, and we're trying to ease that as much as possible to get that work done as quickly as we can. So maybe just for you, Mayor, person in Minnetonka, we have a lot of work yet to do in Opus, but we're looking to finish things up. The trails. There's always interest in where the trails are. We're looking to open those up in the summer time frame in the Opus area. We feel pretty comfortable at this juncture. We do have some closures to do to wrap up work primarily around the station area, and we've been in work with your staff and also with the community in that area to figure out detours and all that good stuff. But we have track laid pretty much all the way up to Opus right now, and it's we'll just continue on our way up as we make our way into Hopkins. One of the things, Mayor, in Hopkins, we are going to be looking to close down the KTEL the 5th to do that crossing. So we have quite a bit of work. There's fairly significant utility work, because you may recall we reconfigured some of the storm needs there and put it down to the south of the station. So we have some storm work to do, and the LRT crossing at that well. So that's going to be a fairly significant closure that's going to be happening later this spring. And as we make our way in through Hopkins, and you know, one of the pieces here I did want to highlight off to the right is that we are looking to open that segment of the trail from Blake just west of Louisiana. We have some fence work to finish up there, and we're hoping to get that done here fairly soon. And so that'll look to be open later this summer here, early summer, I'm hoping. But there are other segments that we're not going to be able to open until later on. We have the Minnesota River Bluffs piece that's later on this year that we're looking to open. That's essentially from Shady Oak over to 11th. And as you can see out there, if you've been out there recently, it's kind of a dirt path for the vehicles to get through, but we'll get that paved here shortly this season here.
So you're looking at from the depot all the way down through Minnetonka, that should be open at the end of 2023?
By the end of 23, we will have essentially from our work would start at that new 17th crossing at KTEL and 5th and make its way all the way up to the depot, and then we'd have to skirt around that like we've been doing, at least the bikers have been doing, and then at Blake we would have it open over to just short of Louisiana. There's a leg that goes off to the north there, and then the piece that goes from Louisiana to Wooddale, that's still 24, and then we also have Wooddale's Beltline open. That'll remain open. That's the crossing over Highway 100. Unfortunately, in Minneapolis, we're still looking at closures through 25 just to do all the work we have in place. One other thing I did want to mention, sort of Excelsior Bridge. I know, Commissioner, you've been interested in activity there. We don't see that we're going to have a full closure there, but we still have some lane closures. We have the sidewalk work to do, and we'll have some bridge painting. We'll get that long bridge painted here this year, so it'll start looking a little more fresh as we proceed. I don't think there's any other thing. Fifth is another closure. We have that rail crossing. It's needing to be repaired, so we're going to have that closed down for a bit of a time as well. We're looking to get that commenced here fairly shortly. Then getting into St. Louis Park, we do have a lot of things happening here. Wooddale and Beltline are two crossings we need to do. We understand they're not going to be done simultaneously, but so we understand there's only so many crossings we have across the tracks there, so we're going to time that. We work with staff. And keep in mind with these dates I've been putting on, I've been just being very general in spring or summer starting. We're really looking to pinpoint that. We're working with our contractor to fine tune that. And I've also tried to be conservative on the durations, but you know, it's all weather dependent, and whatever we find as we're starting to dig into the ground. But hopefully these will stick, and we'll be able to get through these as well. Okay. So then into Minneapolis, we continue to work on the tunnel. I'm happy to say that we are now complete with the secant work that concluded yesterday. Thank goodness. That has been quite a chore. You know, all told, I think we had 257 of those, and it's been a challenge for everyone. But now that work is completed, so that allows us to start taking the tunnel heading to the south, where the contractor has been moving toward the east, and now they'll be able to move to the south. And as we've talked about in the past, that's really the critical path item on this project to get that done. We're going to have some activity up at 21st. We're currently working with the park board and the city staff as well as the community to close off that road. We still like to have access locally to the 5 residences and the beach area up there. And we're going to have to detour that trail off the current alignment during that closure. So that's looking to be probably the full season. We have a lot of work to do in that confined area, a lot of utilities, and of course we have the LRT crossing as well. as we make our way toward the end of the east end of the project, we'll have some work up at Penn and Wayzata. We're trying to time that so we have work on Penn, working with MnDOT on some pieces there that they may take on some of that work. And Wayzata is going to be a full closure to get that passenger drop-off and roadway rework going there. And then as we proceed to the east, we have some busyness up at Glenwood and Royalston. I'm happy to say that we will have Glenwood open this year. We're looking at summer, and it's looking pretty good. We have the LRT bridge pretty much, structure is pretty much done. Track still needs to be put in place, but the contractor's working on the decks on the 2 roadway bridges. That's been a really tough area for us to get through with all the bridges and the railroad going through there. Royalston, we're going to have some closures as well. We're working closely with the businesses and the city staff on what we're doing there. So we're looking to have some closures at that north end. All those businesses can access onto the west of their buildings, but just south of that, where Stark Electric is, they'll have to continue to have access. So we're going to work a 2-way configuration up there. We're still working with the contractor to figure out how that's going to all play out. And then we have Royalston. We have a crossing at Royalston itself. You can see that short line there. Once Glenwood is open, we'll look to close Royalston to get that work done. So
and
again,
that bike trail will be closing on Cedar Lake Trail underneath that area.
yeah, it's been closed.
It's been closed.
Yeah, we'll continue to have that detour through 25 at this juncture. It is one thing I do want to look at, because if we're going to start getting things buttoned up here, I want to see if there's a way that we can get that open earlier. So that's one of the pieces I want to have a conversation with our contractor on. All right. Well, I kind of went through that pretty quickly, and again, I apologize for the fine print. Folks are looking at the screen here, but a lot of detail here. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Any questions?
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of covered this, updated the kind of the bubble map here with all the trail openings and closures and temporary alignments that we have. But I updated the segment for Blake over to Louisiana to open this summer 23. So I always thought we could open it up last year, but it wasn't in the cards. We have a lot of different subcontractors working on these pieces, and it was just wasn't possible. So it's kind of where we are. All right, well, let's move into photos. I think I talked last time, overall we're over 70% complete on this project, and a lot of good stuff, and we'll continue to make some progress. This is looking to be a busy year for the contractor, a civil contractor in particular, and systems as well, as they start ramping up. But Southwest Station, we've coordinating with Southwest Transit to hand this over. We've actually made some headway with this area here. We'll have a waiting area that still needs to be handed over, but I think I showed a little bit of this image last time, but things are looking pretty good here, and to be able to get this handed over for the spring to start for Southwest Transit to start taking over their operations back into this area, which will be a good milestone for us. Here's some exterior work. We still have some pile work, so most of the project is done with making noise out there with piles, but there's still 400 plus piles to be done at this site. We have an approach ramp just on this side of the images you're seeing here to support the support ramp that gets up to the ramp itself. So that'll be underway this summer here. And I always like to show this Opus Station with the development back behind there. Just want to keep folks aware, even though there is some skepticism with these projects draw, but I'm convinced that it does bring on development, as we can see in some of these slides here. And I always like to show off the Excelsior Boulevard Bridge, and again, we're looking to paint this this year. And I can't say enough about Blake Road. Things are just really happening at Blake Road. There's a lot of stuff going on. This is the Howland, I think. And there's another development that's on the other side. If you kind of did a 180 here, take a look. It's just a lot of things happening. But there has been some work over the past couple of months, and this is one of the areas where a little bit of work has been going on. Southwest Station, some of the stations, the tunnels certainly. but things are really going to be ramping up as once we get. I hear we're maybe 70 degrees next week, which will help my biking. I've actually transitioned from my fat tire to my mountain bike just today for the first time in I don't know how many months. It's I don't have to make all that big noise with the studded tires anymore. So
I think we're talking about 1,500 units between the two developments.
yeah, so that's really significant. Lake Road has just really blossomed. And the Louisiana Station, things are still happening here over the winter, and you can see it kind of developing. And the bridge in the back here was the southerly connector. We're looking to get a lot of headway on this piece this year. And Wooddale Avenue.
See, Jim, quick question on Louisiana. I think it's Louisiana. Thinking about the conversations we've had and this gag rule elimination over at the legislature and the eagerness, I think, of many folks to have a conversation at some point in the future about a spur line for light rail from Savage up to St. Louis Park. And I'm assuming that would it connect into the Louisiana Station if that ever became a reality? You haven't even looked at that.
I have not, because I think there's a gag rule. I'm not even supposed to talk about it right now. So,
The line that cannot be named.
Yeah, but we have not really had any conversations on that piece.
Yeah, if you have, don't tell us.
Okay.
Apparently.
I would just a little
I'll
commentary.
tell you that a lot of people are interested in it.
Sure.
Both ways.
Sure. I just put a little commentary out there because this goes back to our freight rail relocation question that we were upon several years ago. You know, we have to have Canadian Pacific agreeing to whatever happens because they happen to own the track, and so it's like someone taking over someone's driveway. We're gonna, so they would have to concur with whatever's going to happen because I don't think that was
like
really.
North Star.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Wooddale, if I saw in the background there, good stuff. Not so much work over the winter time, but that'll pick up here in the spring. And Westlake Street Station, a couple of developments here that off the side you can see the. I always have to look these up to call these out, but this is the. Bear with me here. The Westlake quarter off to the right, and then you can see that crane popping up is the Woodbury House. If you ever get a chance, you ought to look that up on the website. It's actually a pretty impressive structure. Kind of hard to tell in this image, but it's planted on a former fuel station area just behind the fire station. So things are really happening here as well. So moving to the tunnel, again, the secant wall construction is now done. Thank goodness. And so we're moving on to better things to actually move that tunnel headway to the south here. I didn't want to let this pass. I know that back in February there were a lot of questions about impediment. It seemed like the whole world wanted to know what was going on, so I thought I'd throw some slides here to show what's going on. This really ended up kind of being kind of a nothing burger at the end of the day, but it did hold us up a little bit. Kind of down to the lower right is the impediment. It's essentially a concrete slab that was an extension of a tunnel that goes under the silo, and it was determined it was not a structural element, and so we could cut that off. Just so it's kind of hard to tell, but the image just to the left is where we kind of slice that off with the saw, and you can see some of the excavation. This is down about 14 feet, and we discovered it, and we determined what to do with it. We coordinated with SECA pretty closely at this because it is their structure, and thankfully they're willing to work with us on this, and so now we've taken care of that. The problem with this was right in where the secants were going to go, so we've remedied that, and secants are done, so we're kind of moving on. And then image of the tunnel that has not stopped over the winter here. I would say that we have still forecast that we'll see like Parkway open in June, and I'll tell you that it's a little tight, but we're pressing on the contractor to make that happen because I know there's big interest in getting that roadway back up and running. And then as we progress to the east or to the north, this is the last of the three bridges over the Cedar Lake Channel. So work is happening there, and then right next door. This is something that part of our mitigation that we're required to do is in terms of the impacts to the park the park areas, and this is the Work in Progress Administration reestablishing the kind of the shoreline of the channel. So that's a final product there. We're still building walls and other parts of the channel there, and hope to have that completed here this summer. And Bryn Mawr Station had some activity. It's kind of hard to tell, but kind of in the middle of the slide, we're starting to build the vertical circulation elements to get to that. Get to the pedestrian bridge that takes us over to Wayzata, the frontage road off of 394, and then Bassett Creek Valley Station, some activity there as well. We'll have a vertical circulation up to Van White Boulevard Bridge on the other side of that bridge as well. And then Glenwood talked about that. This is the East Roadway Bridge deck that is getting all fit for concrete here, and then our final bridge, we just put in some form work some false work to actually start doing the concrete across the roadway of 7th there. And then I'll go into systems real quick. Just OCS pole installation, lesser impactful activity that's going on, and just a little detail about pole assembly there. And just want to keep everybody in mind that we're still producing equipment, and that's going to our local storage to have ready for installation once the sites are vetted. And here's another piece that's being brought into that storage. So I might just pause there if there are any questions for me.
Chair Zoe?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just curious with the state of federal funding that's coming down with some of the infrastructure dollars, with the atmosphere at the state right now, with having kind of the trifecta around some of these areas, the budget surplus, you know, and I'll keep bringing this issue up every time we meet, and I'm just doing my job, and I appreciate everything that the LRT has brought to Hopkins. Talk about Blake and Excelsior. That's really an amazing development for our city, both of those developments. But the Shady Oak station is to look at, is there any dollars out there that could possibly be leveraged for getting density in the form of a ramp at that Shady Oak station to look at some of that surface parking. And you've done a great job of already cutting that down from, I think it started out as 1,200 surface parking lots to 1,000 down to, I think it's around 500 now, but anything more that can be done so that we can get a ramp there so that we can have some density of development. I mean, I really feel like between the Hopkins property and the property at Minnetonka that's available for development, we could have a sort of Blake and Excelsior type development in that area as well. And so just really curious if there's opportunities out there for us to look at a ramp at that location.
Well, yeah, I would say from the project perspective, that would depend on whether our funders would have to say, because we don't have funds for that, and I know that's something that's high on the list of Hopkins. You know, right now, I just looked up the numbers, make sure I had that because I thought this would come up. We have 182 stalls that we're going to be building as part of a change order on the north side, and we have kind of programmed 315 stalls on the south, but as I've indicated to you past, we're reserving that pending something. So I don't know if there's CMAQ opportunities or something like that. You know, that's certainly what happened out of Beltline with the CMAQ that seems to be pretty successful. We're still working out the details to get a parking structure done with our stalls that we need for the project, but that is always an option that could be considered.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Hopkins is 4 square miles. We are one of the lowest income cities on this line, and we don't have lobbyists, and so any help, this is where we use our voice, and so any help that we can get in terms of looking for funding for that project would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll take a look. Outside of the project, there are a lot of programs, new programs, and then existing programs like CMAQ that are at a larger scale. So that's just something we should look at all those opportunities to bring funds to the state and your project. You're right, Mayor, to mention it and put it on the record as something to be explored.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there are other questions, I'd invite James Makoviak to come up and talk about public involvement.
Yeah, welcome, James.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I was told to stand here so the camera can see me. We have another really busy year this year of outreach. Obviously, as Jim has already intimated, we've got a lot of work going on civil and systems. We can already see that happening. We have 4 major closures happening on April 10th, next Monday. So we've got a lot of outreach in several cities that we have to see to. Before we get into any more detail, we just want to introduce 2 of our new outreach coordinators. Super happy to have them on board. As you know, David has moved to the manager of the Green Line, right? And Nakongo has moved over to the manager of the Blue Line outreach. So we had a couple spots to fill. We definitely need the help, and we're very grateful to have Diane and Katie Kirk on board. You guys can stand so folks can identify. That's Diane Anastas and Katie Kirk. And just you'll see Diane's name on communications as we toward the west, toward Hopkins, probably maybe Prairie, Minnetonka as time goes on, and Katie will really focus more on St. Louis Park or mostly on Minneapolis. We definitely need their help. So as they become more well acquainted with the project, you will see their names more often on outreach communication. Glad to have them. All right, just a couple items. The first item is, like in previous years, we're going to do some tours. We've done these tours in the past. They've been very popular. This enables residents to walk bridges, to go into the tunnels, things that they won't get to do once the project is revenue operation starts. And we find it very popular and people like them a lot. People are very intrepid. We get a lot of great comments. So we will have tours. That will be the next slide. I actually jumped a slide here. But, all right, so I'm going to go backward here. We're looking at public involvement. So the first thing, besides the tours, which I'm going to comment later, is we have our town halls. And unlike previous years, we usually do a kickoff for every city. We're going to combine them. So we will have a Eden Prairie and Minnetonka Town Hall. You can see the dates there, Hopkins and St. Louis Park, and then one in Minneapolis. And we're going to present probably a lot of the same information we have here. Residents will be invited through our webpage, right, and other communications to join us online if they like. All right, here we go. Now we go to the walking tours. As I already indicated, they're super popular. We'll have 3 tours in each city, one in May, one in July, and one in September. And as in previous years, if people want to sign up, they can go to our webpage and do so.
And I just remind folks that that goes pretty quick. So once we advertise, they seem to fill up pretty quickly.
They fill up quick. We only have about 15 to 20 spots per tour per city, so they tend to fill up quickly. And like I said, I think we're all looking forward to them. I'm looking forward to them. I enjoy interacting with people very much. It's a lot of fun. Get a lot of good questions.
And I would just invite this group, if there's an interest in doing tours in individual cities or this CMC, we're open to do that. So just
maybe this summer we can get a CMC tour organized.
We can do that.
Yeah, and just dovetailing on Jim's point here, as for the mayor's, the city staff, if you ever have any groups, right? Any groups that are out there that want to have their own tour, they're certainly not limited to these tours. We can arrange tours for them, and we're more than happy to do that. We've had like the men's shed in Hopkins. We've had them on a couple tours, and we enjoy those whenever they arise. So please feel free to share that information, and they can get in touch with any one of us in the outreach department. I think that's it. I think now I'll hand it over to John, unless I've missed another slide here. Maybe just
I think you're good,
give me a
James.
sneak peek here. We're good? All right. Thanks.
Thanks, James.
Yep.
John.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So, John Tao, and I am presenting the DBE and workforce update. So every month, we're sharing the financials from the DBE billings and invoices along with the contractors' invoices, and the achievements are, as Jim shared earlier, we're exceeding the goals. The contractors are continuing to do their work, and we're working with the subcontractors to monitor their progress, and if there's any challenges that they are encountering, we're working with them to resolve them. These are the subcontract totals to date. These haven't changed too much, so I just wanted to share the disaggregated data with the folks here. And then regarding workforce for the overall project, we just combined the 3 major construction contracts together, and for the overall project so far, this is the achievement that we have. The region has a 20% goal for women and 32% goal for POCI folks, and these metrics are measured in hours. And then, of course, March was Women's History Month, and in March there's always a Women in Construction Week. So our civil contractor, London McCross Joint Venture, sponsored an event with the National Electrical Contractors Association, and it was a great event for a lot of the folks who are working in the industry to come, network, and build relationships and build community and have a lot of good discussions about the industry. So that was going on from March 5th through 11th. Another activity that they did was they held a roundtable luncheon at the field office. A lot of the people who are working in the field and at the project office was able to come together to network and build relationships with each other to support each other in the industry. I think that the construction industry is one that has always been a challenge for women to work in. So whenever we can create opportunities for women to network and support each other and have these conversations, it's always helps shift and change the culture. One of the Met Council's initiatives, the Building Strong Communities program, this model has been adopted by the state. In 2022, they held a training cohort, and one of the graduates from that cohort was working on the civil contract. Isabel Schultz, she's been there since her start. And then, of course, during the winter time, there was a layoff, and in April, they're anticipating on bringing her back in to do more work. And I think that that is a great thing to note, because when we're training folks to get people into these jobs, we also want to make sure that they are being retained and brought in year after year so that they can actually build a career. Because if we just train them and they don't return, then that is, we lose out on the opportunity and the investment that we've put into folks. And then coming this May is another opportunity for any of the people in your communities. If you have folks, young people that may be graduating, or people that are looking for jobs or looking to do a career change, our civil contractor along with our systems contractor is working with Dunwoody College and the Building Strong Communities program and a lot of other training programs to host a Construction Careers Expo. This is great because it's a lot of hands-on activities. It's an opportunity for people to meet with representatives from the various unions and trades. So Thursday, May 4th, 3 to 6 p.m., please help share this within your networks. We want folks to come in and build up a larger workforce for construction, especially since we have the Blue Line extension that also coming down the pipeline too. So these are great opportunities for people to come in and jump into great careers. And I think that's it for my slides.
Any questions for John? Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair Zelli. How has the availability of workers impacted the project? I mean, we clearly hear about that in our cities and from our businesses and so forth, and I'm wondering how big a factor that has been on this very major project.
Yeah, maybe I could take that, Chair Mayor. I don't know if it's really been so impactful. We seem to get through the COVID era, at least as we know it, and it hadn't been as impactful, but something we continue to monitor very closely. We like to get the workforce numbers up. It's just been a challenge to, since we're strung out for 14.5 miles to make that work. I think it's more conducive to like the stadium project that went on a couple of years ago. We seem to be okay. But hearing from the contractors, people are going in other directions. They don't want to go out and work in the field, and it's hard work to be out there, particularly as it gets cold up in this environment. So I think it's an ongoing concern of making sure there is adequate workforce coming into that arena.
Thank you.
Any other COVID impacts? I know supply chain is an issue, but we were fortunate to have that storage area where we continue to purchase despite the delays.
Sure. Yeah, there has been some impact, but not significant. I think we really helped ourselves with that change order to do that storage because we were able to keep that production going. You know, and so we're seeing some delays on some of the parts for spare parts for LRVs that are out quite a ways, but overall we seem to kind of gotten through that.
Great. Any other questions for the team? All right, well, that is the bulk of our agenda. I know that we have more meetings ahead. June 7th, Wednesday. We'll again talk about safety and more updates, and I expect the legislative session to be done by then. We'll have more to report there. And in the meantime, keep checking the website. Other issues come, you know how to find you, and you know how to find us. So with that, I know everybody enjoys a half hour to your day, so stay warm, and thanks for being here. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.